What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song college football show, the Nebraska side of things, as Nebraska comes off their Black Friday drubbing against the Hawkeyes of Iowa, 40-16. Yeah, I said that right. 40-16. I always got to double check my notes when I say 40 and Iowa in the same sentence, but here we are. And the title of this video and the thumbnail of it says "State of the Program" in quotes because that's what all the national media pushed. And what Rhule talked about in his press conference at various times throughout the season where we saw products on the field that are just flat out unacceptable. So tonight, we'll get into that. We'll get on our thoughts on the Iowa game. Brief recap. Obviously, what happened was pretty blatantly clear on the field. And then we will talk into the state of the program and really where it's truly at after a year through with Matt Rhule and what a lot of people are calling a severe letdown with the strength of schedule and various factors. Maybe there's some bright spots that you're not seeing that you can let me know in the comments, because this is a channel, if you watch the show before, it's not super negative all the time. Like, I'll pick other teams to win if I think they're going to win. We're going to preview the opponents, talk the opponents majority week to week, and like my thoughts are very minimal on my basic opinions in Nebraska. I'm not going to do that this show. I'm going to talk about what I see, what I think, especially coming off that Iowa game, which leaves people pondering and really not even truly excited for a bowl game from what I can see from the fan base. And that's a majority of like having to take another thick couple of days of Iowa hatred. And then now we get a whole nother offseason of it. But where Nebraska's at, that team should never lose to Nebraska of where Iowa's at within their program and how long they've been themselves. So let's leave that there. Let's go into the Iowa recap for this week. Then we will go into the state of the program thoughts. I want to remind you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you've never been a part of the show before. Check out the full show, Play the Fight Song. We do a weekly live show on Wednesdays. We cover the entire sport, including the group of 5. Preview season is just about to really get going. Bowl season, conference championships, the college football playoff, you name it. You're going to want to be a part of this show. So make sure you hit the subscribe button for the channel and hit the like button on this video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on Nebraska, state of the program, the Iowa thoughts, wherever you may be. You saw our prediction video on the channel. Give us your thoughts after. But here's where I see the Iowa game. Before we get into it, I want to remind you of our great partner, shopnorivals.com. No Rivals, the best hats in collegiate sports. Check out their Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal still going on right now. It's up to 60% off on select hats on their website. So give them a look. ShopNoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS when you check out for free shipping on your order. The best hats in collegiate sports. Nebraska's on there. Ton of designs. I'm wearing one right now, a Herbie football design. And you're going to want to rock it because it's just in time for another offseason national title, which Nebraska's always due for. But bowl game coming up, Christmas gifts, whatever you need, they've got it. ShopNoRivals.com, code PTFS for free shipping at checkout. All right, the Iowa game. Nebraska drubbed 40-16. 40-16. Hasn't been that bad since Iowa's undefeated season run into the Big Ten title. Here we are talking about the same conversation. And where did the game go wrong? And it's pretty blatant. Like I said in the intro, is we just got physically beat at the line of scrimmage. We shot ourselves in the foot, Plaxico-Burress style, multiple times once again against this team. It's still a threshold for the program, which is why this game means a lot to Iowa. There's various factors, in my opinion, that some are shared with Nebraska fans. Iowa fans hate when I say them, but it's blatantly the truth. But Bo Pelini was fired from Nebraska after beating Iowa and finishing a 9-3 season. They fired him. Went to Kinnick, beat him in overtime. Not enough for Bo Pelini to keep his job. That coaching staff, of course, didn't take kindly to that. I mean, who would, right? But here we are, still trying to find the footing of the program that should handle Iowa the way they should with the national relevance that they have. And it just hasn't come to fruition yet. And Iowa hates us for that reason. The national media members, like a lot of rivalries they have back-end hatred that they professionally can't bring out. Iowa media members really have trouble containing it when it comes to Nebraska, which is no shock. A lot of them were reporting back when Nebraska was dominating this sport nationally, or still making Big 12 titles, playing in the Big 10 title within your first year within a conference will do that as well, especially since they hadn't been there since 2004 at that time. Yeah, they're going to hate Nebraska. That's absolutely not a shock, and it's probably the way it would be if I were a member of the Iowa media. I would also despise the existence of them. it's still a threshold for the program, to say that lightly. And the way I called this the state of the program is because just like earlier, Minnesota this year, Matt Rhule says, we're going to go out, we're going to wear all white. We're at this point in the season, and we're going to see where we're at. We get smacked 24-6. Then come to this week, we had to walk off, shake their hands, them tell us Merry Christmas because we're not going to a bowl game. Like, our players understand the moment. We're prepared. We're ready to go. We've gotten after it this week. 40-16, drubbed. Now, you get the narratives, the snake oil salesman, the name calling, the Rhule. He gets the extension. You want to listen to people that are out in the national media wanting the Nebraska clicks, partially this show and what gives me the 300 appreciative views I get. And they're going to talk about why did they extend him? Didn't beat a ranked opponent this year. Lost to Iowa. Like, it's still in the narrative of what Nebraska needs to do to step forward, because they've gotten us 10 out of the last 11 years. Like, we deserve all the shit we could take from them, to say the least. That's the nice way to put it. Now, on the flip side, we were a 6-point underdog. We gave up 5,000 rushing yards last week at Penn State and 40 points to a team that was underperforming, to say the least, and just got in a dogfight with Rutgers again this week. And you put it on paper, what you saw on paper was year 3 under Matt Rhule. Here's all the recruits that were getting visits and tweets and all of this hype going into the season, and then your expectations set up here. And it's Nebraska. That's what way it's going to be. But when Vegas comes out with a line of 6, and it didn't move. I mean, it went down to, I think the lowest I saw was 5.5, which still, you got beat by 23. You still played like dog shit, even in Vegas's mind. You have a year 3 coach building a program that lost to Georgia Southern. I was in the stadium. They lost to Troy. I was in the stadium. And you on the flip side, not even on the flip side, year 3 of a coach trying to rebuild a program that was literally the depths of hell, with a true freshman quarterback playing his 3rd full game. Here comes the other side. 27-year head coach, culture, identity, couldn't be more clear. It's always been that way. That's why they've ripped off so many winning seasons, because they're just Iowa. Like, that's just what they do. They're going to 7-5 is good enough to get that tab. They will fit well into that narrative always. 5th-year quarterback, 27-year head coach, 5th-year quarterback, 3rd-year head coach, true freshman quarterback. The product on the field spoke for itself, right? And they took it to us, as they should have. I mean, we didn't defend the run well. I saw the narrative out there of, they had true freshmen out there. They had a true freshman tight end and some young backs and receivers that are young. That is not the same narrative as Nebraska having 5 freshmen or sophomores on their defensive line. It's completely different, because as you've heard over the last week, and all of the Nebraska shows have covered, is you have to be really good in the trenches to win in the Big Ten. And we ripped off 7 wins this year. I mean, we were having the same conversation when it's 3-7, and now we're 7-5, and we're still not good in the trenches. So there is something going in the right direction. And yes, the schedule was there. But when I tell you where this Nebraska team ranked defensively, you're going to be like, man, 7 even felt like a stretch for the way they played, right? And that was the benefit of the schedule there. It's not the same. The true freshman on the outside playing wide receiver is not the same as the true freshman playing D-line going against a 4th-year or 3rd-year offensive lineman with 60 Big Ten games under his belt. It will never be the same. To put that in perspective, going back to the Iowa game, since they're still on the screen, Iowa's D-line made up of the following: 6'5" senior in Llewellyn, I think his last name is. 6'5" graduate senior in Graves. 6'5" graduate senior in Pale, whatever the hell his last name is. 6'5" graduate senior in Herkett. Nebraska's defensive line. Redshirt freshman, sophomore, redshirt freshman. And if you want to throw him in there, as bad as he's been at the program, Elijah Judy's senior. That matters. That's their D-line, and they didn't create a lot of pressure, right? They didn't have TJ running for his life or hitting him a bunch, but they did enough. They did more. Nebraska wasn't terrible against the run, but they couldn't wrap Granowski. They couldn't force enough pressure. Like, he had clean pockets when he did make throws downfield. The pass defense wasn't atrocious, but they got hurt on the big swing plays in the middle of the field. The linebacker position, put in perspective, stay with the Iowa narrative. 5'10" junior, Montgomery, 6'2" senior in Sarara, whatever the hell, 43. Played pretty much the entire game. Nebraska, sophomore, senior in Watson Trent, who's turned out to be a complete waste of money. My red flag in this scenario is, yes, we played a team much more experienced than us, even though they weren't the big names, because they lost big names too on the defensive side of the ball, more in the secondary, but they were experienced up front, to put it lightly. We did not see the development throughout the season on the defensive line, even as much as we did on the offensive line. I mean, after the Minnesota game, we were all over, get rid of Donovan Raiola. He's hurting his own family back there with the offensive line product we're putting out. Flip it. What did we say week 1 after Cincinnati? This team doesn't stop the run very well. Sorsby ran all over us. What did we say going into the Iowa game? Man, I hope their quarterback doesn't run all over us. I hope he doesn't. And I wouldn't say he ran all over us, but he ran incredibly effective. Where's the jump? Where's the fix? There was no development, in my opinion. I thought this is Rob Dvorak's worst linebacking core he's put together in his 3 years. I thought the defensive line didn't really take a ton of steps forward. I thought they came to UCLA, and Keona Davis played his best game of his Husker career. Cam Lenhart was quiet, but we just didn't see the jumps, right? We didn't get to the quarterback against Iowa. We didn't get to the quarterback against Penn State. There wasn't really a team that we got to the quarterback enough to be like, all right, now we're getting a hint of why our defense had been so successful under Tony White. So red flags everywhere on that. However, I will say this is a fan perspective, so I get to do this. This Iowa game, you're going to hear about it, right? You're going to hear about it over the entire next offseason. Here's what I will not allow to happen. Fuel for Iowa fans if you're watching this video out of hate watch, which is always enjoyable. So let me know in the comments how ugly I am, whatever you want to say. We got our ass kicked. They're going to talk shit, as they should. Do not let Iowa fans always spin the narrative as they do. If, they're going to come at you, you're going to answer back and say, we have 5 national titles. This is a history, a massive brand in college sports. And they're going to say, well, we beat your ass at 11 out of 10 years. And be like, that's great. Show me your national titles. And then they're going to say, oh, and for typical Nebraska fans, living in the past, hasn't been relevant in 30 years. But don't worry, they'll bring up the last 11 matchups as if that's not the past. Here's why that argument will always just make Iowa fans irate is it doesn't feel like Nebraska at this point in time. It doesn't feel like Nebraska can ever get back to that point of dominance that they were in the 90s, just the way the last decade's gone. But them saying we're not relevant, boy, you sure do invest a lot into beating us for a team that's not relevant, right? The brand's always relevant. The brand on the national scale is always going to be there. That's why we have the offseason national titles, because the fan base is as insane as it is. Reminder, hit the like button. And that pisses them off. They hate that. And that's fine. They should. But it's always going to be a bigger brand. And it is a big win for Iowa when they beat Nebraska. And it's not because of the Heroes Trophy presented by Pioneer or Hy-Vee or whoever the hell wants to put up that trophy every year. It's because it's the big brand from down the road. And don't say, oh, it just gets normal now. Like, we always beat Nebraska. There's a reason your head coach cries like a baby every time he does it. Because it's a big deal. He was still at Iowa when Nebraska was winning national titles. That's how long he's been there. So don't let him use that against you. Now, on the flip side, and the positive side for a Nebraska fan, you got the bowl game coming up. Got another offseason title on deck. That's just what we do. If you're the Piedmontese family, you would eat Piedmontese meat, and they're the big donor for the collective and Nebraska and Matt Rhule and why he said the pockets are getting deeper. Payday's here. Time frame's coming. Portal window is going to be open. What does Nebraska need to get? They need to get defensive line help, significant defensive line help. You had to throw a couple names out there. I'd say look at Northwestern's nose guard. Hell of a run stopper. Very similar to Nash, in my opinion. You get some speed off the edge. We'll see how the development goes with Williams-Nwaneri. See if Lenhart can take a step forward. Get Judy out of the program. You're going to obviously need to go get help on both sides of the trenches. I mean, load them up. That's where you should spend majority of your money. I think EJ is going to go to the NFL. I think we're going to lose a couple of pieces on the defense that we didn't expect. And I'm not talking about, crazy ones like Andrew Marshall. I'm talking about like Winery. If he were to head out, wouldn't stun me. But I just wasn't impressed with Terry Braden's group and their development and process throughout the season. Wasn't impressed. I think you got to invest majoritively on the defensive line. And I don't think anybody would disagree. I thought the offensive line did get better. And we had this conversation every November. So we got to we have to avoid the first few weeks and then that one massive game of just disappointment to where we were like, oh yeah, they're not that bad in November. That's got to stop. Like it's got to be consistent throughout the year. So that's a fair take if you say we do say that every year, every November. They did get better though. They really did. Defensive line did not. Linebacker core's got to get better. They've got to develop. I like Rob Dvorak a lot. I think that group doesn't worry me a ton, but you can go get a linebacker. I think the safety position is a big red flag for Nebraska. Deshaun Singleton's going to be done. I thought Rex Guthrie played the worst game he's played at Nebraska in a very short time frame. Against Iowa, he looked horrible. Looked like he was hurt, to be honest with you. If you go back and watch it, he got beat. He got beat consistently in run fits and on tight end routes. Tight end was the leading receiver in that game if you're Iowa. Marquise Buford legitimately got benched. Go find a leader. Go find a guy who's a fifth year that's going to come in and be as much of a leader as Dylan was in his true freshman year. Do you have to have, and they talked about this on the Husker Online show, Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washington, great show. You should take in all the Nebraska content you can find, especially if you're watching this show. You have to have a hard edge or a leader of a group that can be like, hey, guys, someone's got to put their fucking foot down and make a play. And I don't drop the F word a lot on this show. So that shows you where my mind's at as much as the fan base at this point in the season. But there was nobody. Like, who was the leader of that defense? Who was the guy in the huddle? Like, it's not a group effort. Like, there's got to be one guy that's the voice of like holding people to that standard and accountability. And to me, I couldn't point out the person that I thought that was. Last year was obviously Ty Robinson. Jamari Butler, honestly, could have been a part of that conversation last year with the way he ran and brought the energy to that unit. I don't know who it was. You can say Sierra Wright because he was a majority of the coverage for the defense, and he was good. But there's got to be a more forcible voice within the room, and they've got to find it fast. So if that's what you want to get in the portal, go do it. Last piece on the transfer portal and state of the program, Dylan Raiola. I think the narrative and the guesses and rumors, whatever the hell you want to call them, I don't think he's going anywhere. You heard Steve Sipple on the Husker Online show again say, I texted Dominic Raiola, Dylan's dad, and he said he's a Husker. To me, that's enough to be like, all right, if he lies, he lies. There's not a point. You're going to see a million different posts because Nebraska gets clicks, responses. That's part of the brand. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think having him is so important. And it's not a discredit to TJ. I actually thought he stepped in and was somewhat serviceable, made a few throws that should have been caught, and our receiver let us down in the last couple of weeks. But Dylan Raiola is starting quarterback in Nebraska if he comes back. It's not even a question. And it'll probably be his last year, his junior year. But if you're questioning it, just look at the true leadership. Like, yes, it's a true freshman in the game, but Dylan was in that same spot last year as TJ Lateef, and he was like the guy out there on the mic, livid, getting in people's ear, pulling people off the sideline, having those conversations. Like, he was the leader in the group, like the coaching staff has told you. We didn't have that last few games. Like, it should have been Dane Key. He's the captain of the team. Maybe those conversations are different, right? I'm a fan like you. I'm sitting in the stands. But it didn't feel like there was anybody out there that had that full frustration of like, this is it. Emmett gave it his all. Emmett Johnson was spectacular against Iowa in the entire season. But the hard edge has got to be there. And the program's got a lot to move forward. And it was a good baseline to tell you where we're at, that Iowa game. We got smoked. And it gave away the glaring problems and brought them even more to light, like we saw in Penn State. We did the same thing against Penn State. I wouldn't credit Iowa as like the best team in the country for doing that to a Nebraska defense. That's horrible. Now, let's go into the coaching talk. Before we do that, Full Ride Vintage Gear, shop for fullridevintagegear.com. Best designs for Nebraska shirts in the game. 25 licensed Nebraska designs. Check them out, fullridevintagegear.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on your order. Nebraska, small Nebraska brand. Get out there, support them. Code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. Shout out fullridevintagegear.com. Into the more of the coaching talk. Dana's contract's coming up. It was a 2-year deal. Here comes year 2. We'll see if that changes anything. Were you impressed with his offense? Here's the team rankings. 26.5 points per game puts Nebraska 67th in the country out of 136 teams in the FBS this year. 356 yards per game. That puts him 86th in the country out of 136 teams. Not doing too well. 86% red zone scoring. We know the struggles we've had in the red zone, and it's been in terrible spots. Like, it's not like we're up 3 scores, we miss a field goal. It's that type of stuff. It's early in games. It's in swing points of a 1-score game where we miss opportunities to score in the red zone. That 86% puts Nebraska 58th in the country offensively out of 136 teams within the FBS. One glaring thing, and this a lot has come on the offensive side of the ball this year, or special teams, killed us in special teams against Iowa 2 different times. Penalty yards given up per flag for Nebraska. So, not a massively penalized team, definitely not going to get calls against us, but penalty yards per flag. Nebraska averages 9.5 yards per flag. So it's not a false start. It's not a procedural penalty that's 5 yards one way or another. However, we had way too many encroachments this year lining up on the line of scrimmage defensively. It's a terrible issue that needs to be resolved immediately. And somebody in the media needs to ask about it. 9.5 yards per penalty ranks 116th in the country out of 136 teams. Like, when Nebraska was getting flags thrown on them, it was killers. It was drive killers. It's drive extenders if we're on defense. That can happen. That's dumb personal fouls, pass interference, defensive holdings. Like, any penalty above 10 yards, that was consistently what it was. It was never the small things. Game changers. On the defensive side of the ball, and this is where I want to focus because we're talking on the D-line, as everybody knew was the issue, is Terry Braden. Told you about it. I'm not ecstatic, and I'm not happy with where the development was throughout the entire season with the defensive line that he had for the entire year. 5.1 yards per rush, given up. 117th in the country out of 136 teams. Per game, 180 yards given up on the ground per game. In the Big Ten, that is a recipe for disaster. You have to stop the run, and Nebraska just didn't do it. That is a 100th ranking in college football out of 136 teams. You want to look for the recipe for 7-5? There it is. Can't stop the run. Didn't stop the run. Didn't get any better at stopping the run overall throughout the entire season. And that is with the inflated numbers. Like, the games that you're like, all right, that was much better. Houston Christian, Akron, teams that you're supposed to dominate. Those are stat inflators. And it was so bad outside of that, that they're still terrible, to put that in perspective. So, something's got to change. Your investment points, defensive line, I think the safety position, and you got to go get probably another running back, Kai Nelson, Isaiah Mosey. He'll be a great option, very Dylan Edwards-esque. Wide receiver, you probably got to go get another leader, although Isaiah Hunter's only a sophomore. You can retain him. That's huge. I think he can be a wide receiver 1 for Nebraska. But there's a lot. I've kind of thrown my ideas around 1,000 different places in this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm obviously not a guy that gets on here and talks opinions often because everybody's got their opinion on Nebraska, but that's just where I saw it. Iowa game, we were horrible. We deserved to get blasted. We shot ourselves in the foot. We did all of what we normally did to lose to Iowa by 3 the last 7 years, and then some. So that's why it's 40. It was horrible. I was the guy who went to school in Iowa for 4 years. Never saw Nebraska beat Iowa in those 4 years. So I got a special hatred to that game. And that's what the rivalry is, right? Van Poppel in that game, 1 tackle. McCullough, 1 tackle. Guthrie talked about how he played like a JV player that entire game. Things have got to be fixed. And Rhule said it's unacceptable, and he understands why the fan base is frustrated. Fix it. Simple as that may be, and that means changes. And no, I'm not a fire Matt Rhule guy at this point. Some people are. I disagree wholeheartedly. I think you're just continuously hitting the reset button until it works, right? But Nebraska's in a better record spot than they've been in quite some time, and a chance to get to 8 wins for the first time since 2016. But the way those last 2 games went, right? That is the definition of the first 5 seconds of Sour Patch Kids. So we'll see where it goes from there. But let me know your thoughts in the comments on everything I broke down, the Iowa thoughts, where you think the state of the program is. That's the name of the video. That's the name of and the title of Matt Rhule thrown at you the last couple of times. Nebraska has been embarrassed on television. I don't really hate the extension. If you read into the contract, it doesn't really mean anything for Matt Rhule's money-making ability. It's simply to take him out of the coaching carousel. State of the program. Let me know your thoughts, where we're at, where you think, what you thought after the last 2 games of just embarrassment on national television, because there's a lot to clean up. But all right, we'll talk to you next time. We'll preview the bowl game. We're going to preview the opponent. It's going to be somebody you don't know. You're going to need to watch the show. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, shopnorivals.com, code PTFS, shopfullridevintagegear.com, code PTFS, both for free shipping on those awesome sites. So check them out. Great partners of the show. Check out the live show Wednesday night. Conference championship week coming up. This is college football heaven. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. We'll see you next time. Go Big Red.